What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. Of course, you are watching TWA Motorsports, and today, more parts coming off the Trans Am. So, here's the situation. Obviously, you guys have seen recently, we've had to rearrange some stuff in the shop to make things happen, and got a new lift installed, which I'm really excited about. You guys saw us kind of move stuff around in a video recently, get the Trans Am over to here. And you're probably wondering, like, why did you need it over here when you could work on it up there? Well, the next stage of this is obviously we got to get the trans cooler mounted, and it's kind of dark back there and I don't have a ton of room. So I wanted it here for that purpose, but I also am going to be taking the 342s that came out of this, the Camaro that's covered up there, and having my buddy install them in here. And not because you're going to gain a lot going from 323s to 342s. You're going to gain a little bit. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's a 10 bolt, you know, I get it. But for now, that's what I want to do. I want to paint this rear end just like I did that one, just clean things up. But the main reason is I've got to get the fuel tank out of here. Guys, I've went back and forth about cutting a trap door. I'm not 100% that I'm still not going to cut a trap door just for future servicing. I think it would make your life a lot easier. Look, we're modifying this car, so it's not like a purist thing. You're never going to see it. I might, when I get the tank out, see about cutting one. I don't know. I'm still up in the air on that. But anyway, we need to get this thing off the ground. We need to get the wheels out. We need to get the rear end out of this thing. So let's lift it up. The cool thing about this is, look, I could do this a couple ways. I think I'm going to do it on the ground. And when I say on the ground, I'm going to lift it up a little bit, give me access to the areas I need to unbolt, and then basically lift up, and the rear end will be on a jack or something. I can just slide it out. Now, the other option is I could use my transmission jack, but it's going to be a little wobbly on that, I think, because there's just not enough plate. I may look at getting another attachment for that for jobs just like this. I think that would be really beneficial. So I'm going to do some research on that. But for now, let's get it up off the air. Let's get the wheels up in the air, get the wheels off, and get started. Once we get the wheels off and it up in the air, I think I'm going to start here. Oh, it's leaking anyway. Look at that. Gross. I've got some cleaning to do on this, guys. But anyway, 13 millimeters. You kind of learn stuff as you go, I feel like, with any job. And I noticed that when I did the other car, I loosened the outer, for the sway bar, I did the end links first, and then the sway bar was kind of a pain to do. So I'm going to go ahead, take the 13s out that hold the sway bar on both sides, followed by, I think they're 15s for the end links up there. And we've got obviously a new sway bar and new end links, so we won't be reusing anything except the loop and this little plate here and the bolts, or the nuts, obviously. But the rest of it, it's gonna go in my scrap pile. We're not putting it back on. It's actually 13 millimeter to get the end links loose. So it's the same as the U-bolts. Now, man, there's a lot of dirt down here. I thought this car is clean. We're gonna move on to probably, I think it's in 21 millimeter or 22 millimeter to get the bottom of the shock. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and put a floor jack, I think, under it, kind of in the middle, because what's going to happen is this rear end's going to want to rotate forward as we're taking stuff apart. And for all the people out there saying, are you going to keep the decarbon shocks? Absolutely not. We'll be replacing those when we go back together. But I think, actually, you know what? We're going to get the panhard rod loose, which should be 22 on one side, or 21 on one side and 18 on the other. Panhard is out. Now we're going to move on to the bottom of the shocks. They are indeed 21 millimeter, but like I said, before I do that, I'm going to grab my jack and get under there, because I think we'll have to lift it up just a little bit, and it's going to want to rock forward, like I said, because it's not tied. I didn't hook up the torque arm to the transmission, so my goal here is to pull it out with the torque arm attached. You can see I got the nut off the shock there. Now I'm working on, I got the 18 millimeter off. These are 18s that go on the bottom of the lower control arm. I got those off. A long time ago, I put the lower relocation brackets in, and I also cut this, but It comes with a new bolt, so the upper should be 3/4 if you've installed these, and there's probably a sleeve in there, but I need to get those 3/4 loose because it makes your life a lot easier getting the e-brake unhooked if this has a little slack in it. So I'm going to do that next. I mean, I've left the bolt in there because I don't want the rear end to get all crazy while we do a few other things. That bolt will be one of the last things I remove. I forgot how much I hate taking these off. So what I use is a pair of needle nose pliers around the ledges here. There's 3 little tabs you got to get kind of bent in for it to release out of this holder. Once you do that, you'll slide it back a little bit and the cable will clear in the center. You can pull it out, and then once you pulled it out and got a little more slack, you can pull it off of the arm up front here, as you can see. I hate doing that part. This other end of this is hooked to the brake line, so I forgot that, but you do get a little more slack in it by taking the bolt out. I just got to go knock out the other side. Then we're going to move into the center. We got a brake line and a electronic connection we got to take care of. Once we got both those terrible things loose, I hate those things. All right, we need to get this plug right here out. So we need to pull our lock. If I could do that with one hand. There we go. And then it should come out. I'm gonna have to go get something to push it though, aren't I? All right, so we need to unplug this. And then on this car, it's awesome because it only has one brake line. See that? That's the only brake line we need to undo. And I always like to make that last because it's gonna start dripping. And I'm gonna cap it off, but you're not gonna keep it from getting stuff on the floor. I was able to get that out, and I got one of my little line clamps on there. That thing is so handy. It kind of slows down or stops the brake fluid. Generally, if you get it seated right, it'll stop it. But guys, all we have to do now is I'm gonna let it down a little bit just to remove the springs. They're pretty loose now. Actually, I could probably take them out. These are factory cut springs, by the way, which I'm gonna be leaving. However, like I said, the shocks will be replacing. So I went ahead and pulled the bolts out of the lower A-arm. The only thing we're gonna have to watch as we come back is we need to route the e-brake cables out of the little holders. We'll deal with all that, like the brackets and stuff when we get it out of the car, but that's it. We're ready to come out. And there you have it. I actually didn't even lift the car up. I just pulled the jack straight back. And we are out. Got some more stuff to disassemble. Like I said, we're gonna be taking these brackets off. I'm gonna take the torque arm off, which I'll show you guys this here in just a little bit, but obviously we're gonna get the brakes off. We're gonna make it as light as possible for him. And then same situation, we're gonna take it to a buddy of mine who bought some parts off the Trans Am parts car, and he's going to do the gear swap. Obviously, we're going to have some cleaning to do, it looks like, which that's not a big deal, just a day with the power washer. But I think the next thing we'll do is we'll roll it back and get the torque arm out of the way. I'm going to start with the 21 millimeters that hold the torque arm on. You can see we drug that out as one piece. 21 millimeter, that's a bolt that goes all the way through. There's a nut on the bottom. I think I can get to it. So we're going to knock that off real quick. And then I'm probably going to go ahead and take the 13s out that hold all the connections here. Well, the things that hold your e-brake lines. So there should be one there, and then there's one right here. Now be careful if you're threading this back in because this bolt is longer due to the fact that it has to go through this. Now I need to take this guy off. Obviously we're going to take the caliper off. These are 15 millimeters. I'm going to take the 15s out, which will take the bracket and the caliper all off at once. But 11/16 holds the line. And then I think this is like 12 millimeter it is. Okay, so we're gonna bust these loose. I know it's gonna start dripping. Aside from that, once we get that off, we'll be able to pop the little clip off, and then this bracket that, remember, we had to cut recently on the Camaro. I'm gonna repaint that. And obviously all this hardware I'm taking off, I'm gonna be painting. But I think for now, I'm gonna leave the brake lines on, which all you have to do is unbend the tab and take 113 out. I'm gonna leave those on because I'm gonna power wash those at the same time I power wash the rear end. looking to see, I'm probably going to take those 13s out actually up top and clean that piece. And then I think we're ready to power wash. I may unplug this and take this 13 out. Maybe I'll just unplug it because I'd kind of like to wash that whole ordeal. That just sits in there. We'll just leave that to the side. I'm going to power wash that all together. And then, look, we'll blow out our brake lines and whatnot, but I do want to get the calipers off and the rotors off. We have it ready to power wash. Then, like I said, I'll bend those tabs back, take the 13 out. We'll get the brake lines off, but I want to power wash those because on the Camaro over there, I actually painted these with some satin black. Just makes them look a little nicer. I will tell you, I've had a terrible time here lately getting the brake lines loose for some reason, but anyway. I'm gonna have Cohen help me haul it outside, power wash both sides of it, and then off to my gear guy. Got this thing washed up. Man, does it look better. It's crazy just what power washing does to something, to be honest with you. Now, remember, like I said, guys, I'm going to be sending this to a buddy to put the 342s, I know it's not a big difference, but the 342s that came out of this guy, we're going to be putting in this guy. But now that I've got it all power washed, I can go ahead and pop the brake lines off with this 13 millimeter, bend these little tabs up so I can get that out of the way. And then, honestly, I may wait. That's broken actually, and then I think that's supposed to be a clip to hold another set of lines, but it looks like it's broken. But either way, I'm gonna get this off. I'm gonna spray paint this with some, just some Rust-Oleum, and just to make it look a little nicer. So I'm gonna do that off camera real quick, but let's get the 13 out. I'll probably clean that bolt up too and paint it. I think what I'm gonna do next is, we got a lot of cleaning to do here. You can see, you know, of course, all the dirt and whatnot over the years has just flooded the back of this thing. And so I've got my vacuum ready to go here. I'm gonna start with the brush. We're gonna dry brush it. All these areas up here, you can see where I drilled the rivets out that originally held this in. Once I get that vacuumed with the brush, then I'm gonna take all of these lines out, basically disconnect them, and it should all go into right there, but I'm gonna kind of droop them out of the way so I can start spraying this and wiping it down. Well, it was pretty gross, but I was able to get it all cleaned up, as you can see. I'll probably go over it one more time, but I also tried to clean up some of the loom. That's tough to clean. I don't want to relume it because these are in specific spots, and I mean, I guess I could if I was that crazy, but I think we're good here. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to test fit the back bumper, and the reason I want to do that is I kind of want to see what we're dealing with as far as room here. How much room do we have to mount that transmission cooler with the bumper in place? I don't exactly know where it's going to land. So I know that it sets flush like from here to like maybe here, right? A couple inches, I think. And then it bows out. Obviously, this is the support for that. But I think the only good way to know is if I actually try to put the thing back on. Put the bumper back on, just to kind of see what we had going on. And here's what we got. Look, I have plenty of room to put the trans cooler back there. So I wrapped it back up. It's sitting over there. But we can put it on here. And there's enough room. I was kind of concerned because I guess I thought this went straight down off that ledge, and it doesn't. There's a little room there. So what I'm planning to do is build 2 strips on each side and go down. And I really would love to them to tie in to the inner support here that new, I guess you'd call it bumper support, ties in to hold this together. I'd really like to use that. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to. I think I can though. So essentially the other thing I noticed is this is obviously held together with like a 10 millimeter, 10 millimeter, 10 millimeter, and then like a Phillips screw on the inside of the fender. But back here you have those push-in clips, and then these little guys, I know I've got them routed differently, but they clip in here. But look right here. Look how much room without that piece of plastic that I drilled out, which you have to do in order to take the bumper support off or cut it. I'm gonna have to put it back in place, which is not a big deal. I still have it, actually it's sitting outside. But yeah, I think this is gonna work. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have to grab me some metal and try to figure out how I wanna bend this and make this work. So I've got a piece of clothes hanger that I've bent into different areas, and we're gonna have to drill holes in the tub or the well back here, but I'll put them under the carpet where you only see them on the bottom side of the car. It's not gonna bother me that much. But I've measured under there, and I have this bent. I'm gonna transfer over to that piece of plate and the length, and I'm basically gonna put a spacer on the bottom. We're gonna drill 2 holes in the back on the very bottom, and we're gonna attempt to produce this same angle using this as a tie-in point for the top and the 2 bolts in the bottom for the tie-in point on the bottom. And I think that'll work. The only holes you'll see is if you look under the car, but look, it's not that big a deal. This car isn't like ever gonna go back to stock, and if it does, it'll be under somebody else. So you could just put a couple push-in clips there. There's actually 2 already in the bottom of this car for drain purposes, I suppose. But anyway, let's get this transferred over after measuring it to my plate. I think it's 1.5 inches. Hopefully I can bend it. So with a little bit of work, I was able to do what I set out to do. I got it the same shape. Well, that's not the piece I used, but same shape on both sides. Actually, just, guys, all I did was cut this with my grinder and use my vise over there to just knock these things over into shape. And so I just mimicked the same shape that I had on my clothes hanger. Now, look, they're not bolted in the bottom. We're gonna tie them in there, but they're where I need them at the top. I have already test fitted that guy that's on top of the tire, the trans mount or the trans cooler. So we'll move these around where they need to be after we get the top secured, but I've got them in a spot where I think I should be able to mark the hole and go ahead and get the hole drilled in the top, and then hopefully we can get that piece mounted. I was gonna use a rivet like the factory did, but honestly, I may just slide a bolt through it if I have the room. I just think that would be, well, I say that, we'll see. I may put a bolt in it if I can find one small enough, like a grade 8 bolt. And then what we'll do is we'll position the bottom ones where they need to be. And we will take the carpet out of the trunk and drill that. So check out what I got. I went ahead and trimmed off that upper piece. Like I said, we're gonna have to mount the top of the bumper. Also gonna have to use a bolt or a rivet here. I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do. I'll probably use a bolt since I'm using a bolt through this, but I bolted this on after drilling some holes in it. And then you can see I've got this clamped. And now we don't have the bottom stuck. That's why it's got so much play in it. But once we get the bottom stuck, that's the jam. I think it'll be fine. I think that steel is strong enough, because this is a steel strap, that once we pin the bottom, we won't have any movement. I know it's hard to show you because I don't have any way to pin the bottom without going ahead and drilling the holes and bolting it. But I'm happy with what we got. And guys, that is where we're gonna end this video. We got the rear end out. It's still sitting over there, I gotta take it. Got the trans cooler somewhat mounted. I'm gonna test fit the bumper again off camera, but in the next video, we are going to be hopefully getting that mounted for good. And then we're gonna start hopefully on removing the gas tank. Just depends. And then these wheels here, I'm gonna probably make a video talking about what that's all about and kind of where we're at in the shop with those and why they're here and whatnot, because I know a bunch of people are probably gonna be asking questions about those wheels. They're kind of an expensive set, but I'll explain in a different video. But if you guys did enjoy the video of me popping the rear end out of this thing and somewhat getting the trans cooler mounted, go down there and hit that thumbs up button. Guys, if you are not subscribed, go down and hit the subscribe button. Of course, like always, ring that bell notification. That will notify you every single time we drop a new video on this or anything else. Stay tuned to see what we work on next.